So I'm going to tell you about how God is moving me in silence while helping me build my business. So we're going to go back to just a few months ago. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom for a little over 3 years. And so my kids started to go to school, and I started to talk to God about what my next steps was. While I was at home with my kids, I actually built a balloon business or an event planning business. I did it for a couple of years and I decided to let it go. I did that for a few reasons. And so I knew that door had closed because my husband had started a job working weekends, and that's when I did most of the parties. So that was just confirmation that that chapter was ready to end. So when my kids started ready to go to school, I was like, what do I want to do? Do I want to work or do I want to build something? And ultimately, I was going back and forth for a while. So like I started the job search and I got nothing. Like a lot of people, they say they job search and they get nothing. They don't get any callbacks or anything like that. So the same thing happened to me. I would job search every day. Then I would take a little break because I would just, it's depressing, you know, I always get like rejection emails and things like that. But then I also had an idea. I wanted to build a brand business, which I'm building right now. Someone came to me and a couple people asked me to like do a couple things for them, brand a couple things, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I was like, hey, you know, this seems like something I would really, really enjoy. But at the same time, I was like, how am I going to build a business and make money? I figured when my daughter went to school in August, like that was gonna be my time. I was like, okay, that's my time to shine. I'm gonna get me a job. My husband, you know, will have my son, or I would be able to put him into daycare. Um, and like me looking for a job, I just kept getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And so another thing is when looking for a job, I had prayed that God moved me in silence. So I said, you know, Lord, I want to build my business, but I want to build it a little bit differently than I did last time. Because we all know when you're starting something new or you want to do something, you got people in your ear, people, you know, telling you it's not going to work, and people giving you suggestions. I didn't want any of that. I literally wanted to move in silence. And the thing was, is like, I wanted to work a 9 to 5. How are you move in silence if you work during the day or whatever, 7 to 3? And then, you know, so this is my whole conversation with God. It was like, I really want to build this business. I really, you know, I want to do both in reality. And I don't even know if that's even possible. Like, how is this possible when I would have to work, you know, a 9 to 5 or 8 to 3 or what have you not, and then I would get my kids from school, and then, you know, we would have to do the whole family thing, and it just would be no time. I also too was just like, you know, if God gives me this daytime job, then I know possibly that um, maybe me being an entrepreneur, maybe me being having my own business or building my own business, maybe that just needs to be put to the back. Maybe that needs to put to the sideburn, like on the side, um, because give or take, I may not have time to build it. I just knew I didn't really belong in anybody's office. I just feel like I wouldn't give anybody like 100% because I knew I was going to be thinking about like my own situation, my own stuff. But at the same time, I needed money. So, and I want money, right? Like, my desire was not to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'll talk about that in another video. That was never my desire, never my goal. It was to be a present mom. But no, there is no way to move in silence at that point when you're, you know, working a full-time job. Also, I didn't, it's hard to say this, but I didn't want anyone to think like, oh, she just got a job and she quit her little balloon business and she got a job. So like that era is done. It's like, no, 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 no. No, I still have a vision of being an entrepreneur. I still have the ambition, the motivation, the drive to do this. I just need income. I had to make up in my mind, you know, something about myself. So I was talking to a friend, I remember, and she was saying, oh, you know, like everybody else, you know, you can't find a job because it's just the way it is right now. It's just the economy. It's just, you know, it's just what's happening right now. And really in my mind, I had to say, I don't think that's what it is. there's no way that God has given me, I feel like some clarity and some vision on what I want to build. There's just no way that he wants me to have a 9 to 5 with the type of like visions that I have or of what to build. So I am job searching. I have a friend and she does home health. When she's like in the middle of like finding jobs, she'll go to home health. And so she said, why don't you go do home health? And I was like, I don't think so. That's not really my thing, like to go and help. She's like, no, you just get an easy client. You just probably have to cook or clean for them for a couple hours, and then that'll be that. At least that'll put some money in your pocket. So last year around, I believe it was like November, and I knew Christmas was coming up, so I was like, forget it. I'll take a client because I need to get like Christmas gifts and things like that. So I took on a couple of clients. So fast forward, my sister, we're having this conversation, and she tells me she's working. She works a full-time job, but she actually picks up shifts working for this company. It's a home health company, and they're like 12-hour shifts, and she picks up shifts in their cash, the shift she picks up, and she does it whenever they need help. And she pretty much babysat older people overnight. And so I was like, well, that's it. And she was like, yeah. She was like, she just makes sure they go to the bathroom, and she was just like, that's it. She's like, I fall asleep while I'm there too. And I'm like, man, that sounds good. I was like, they need people like on the weekends only, or is it? She was like, no, this is every day. Like, and it's 12-hour shifts. It's 8 to 8 or 9 to 9. I was like, oh man, okay. I was like, I need you to do a couple of shifts, and that's perfect. And I was like, oh, that's something I could be interested in. I didn't move on that right away because mind you, I'm still job searching. And then there was a company I had went back to who I did seasonal for. And then I felt like I did an interview, and I felt like the interview went perfect. So with the seasonal job, me talking to the manager, he pretty much was like, you're going to get seasonal or you're going to get full-time. We just have to decide. So I just kind of figured that was like in the bag. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm about to have me a job. I don't know if it's seasonal or permanent, but it's cool. I'm about to get it. Got a rejection email. A couple days later, I did not get neither one. So now I'm still devastated. My husband's like, why are you devastated over this little video job or whatever? I'm like, because I was so close. I just felt like I was so close to getting something, but I didn't. So I ended up talking back to my sister, and I ended up going, calling the company, going on an interview. And they tell me, they say, well, are you comfortable with changing a client's depends and all of that? I was like, I'm not comfortable at all. No. All my sister said she did was go and watch these older people and help them to the bathroom, and they do everything on their own. And then she helps them back to bed. Like, that's it. So the lady, unfortunately, she told me, well, unfortunately, it's going to be hard to place you with a client because you have these restrictions. And so I left out of the interview just kind of bummed, like, dang, nothing's working. So I ended up talking to my friend about it, and she was telling me, she was like, no, go back and tell them yes. And she said, it's not as bad as you think it is, but just tell them yes, just be open-minded about it. So I went back, I called them, and I told them yes. I didn't hear anything. I told them yes, that I would take the client that they had or whoever they had, and whatever the needs were, I would go ahead and take care of those needs. So I didn't hear anything back for a couple weeks, so I figured they didn't want to give me the job, or they didn't have a client for me, or whatever have you. I finally get placed with a client. And they mentioned to me that like I could just pick up shifts. So they put me in like a text line where like I can pick up shifts and things like that. And it was okay for, a couple, I think maybe like a month I would pick up shifts and things like that. But I was just like, oh, this is kind of like stressful to pick up shifts, not knowing when the shifts were, not knowing like I would have to get sleep the same day. Just kind of just trying to plan out your day, but you can't because you're like, I need to pick up this shift. So I kind of prayed again. I said, God, like this job is like a perfect situation. It's just perfect for me to work on my business, like have a clear mind, just make money at the same time, and it's not it's just a calm environment. You know what I mean? I'm just going to patients' houses or a facility, sitting with them, and that's pretty much it for 12 hours. But I said I would like to have, kind of 2 days or 3 days, because mind you, they're 12-hour shifts. So 2 or 3 days permanently would be great. I knew in my mind, I was just like, he's not going to give me that. I'm like, he wants me to build my business. So why would he give me a permanent job where maybe he thinks I'll get comfortable? About 2 months into me working, they find me clients that actually matched what I wanted. So again, I tell them that I would prefer people or clients that can go, I just help them to the bathroom. And I don't mind helping them get dressed and things like that. But as far as changing their Depends, their diapers, things like that, I am not comfortable with that. I can help them put it on, but I do not want to clean up after anybody. And so they end up finding me 2 clients. And I currently work Sunday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays nights, 8 to 8 or 9 to 9. And when I tell you God has showed out for me, he has. So I imagine like working, I would be, like a lot of people, just dealing with a boss, dealing with people, um, just just the everyday like hustle and bustle of a job. No, the only thing I'm lacking is sleep, and I'm okay with that. So I literally work in a client's home, and then one client I work in a facility. Their sleep majority of the night, I literally just maybe have to take one client I take to the bathroom every 3 hours, and one client is just whenever she wakes up, maybe like twice a night, and I get to sit there with my computer, work on my business. I get to plan my dinners out, my day out. I get to just think, have a clear mind. I don't have a boss like in my ear at all. It's so peaceful, so peaceful. And the best part about it is nobody knows I'm working. So the only people that know I'm working, my husband, of course, my sister, because of course she recommended me to the job. I have 2 friends that know. That is it. 4 people. But nobody else knows, because and so, when I was asking him, like, kind of like talking to God about, I want to work, but I want to be an entrepreneur. And, and he was telling me, you have to stop job searching. I felt like that scripture where it says, like, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Because really, it was like, I felt like he was like, girl, what do you want to do? And I'm sitting over here like, I want both. You know what I mean? I want job because security in a sense, and then I want entrepreneurship, because that's where my heart is. And I felt like he was like, you have to make a decision. What is it that you really, really, really want? Like, if you can choose one, what do you want? And ultimately, I chose entrepreneurship. And ultimately, I had to stop and trust and say, I'm going to stop job searching. And I feel like when I said that, that's when he moved on my behalf. I feel like that scripture is saying, like, pick a side and stand on it. And that's exactly what I did. And God gave me both. So I'm going to continue to work and also build my business in silence. And I'm going to do some more videos of just showing my business and what I do, and just how I'm the mom and business life and things like that. I don't know when I plan on revealing, any details about me working to like my family and my other friends, because again, only 4 people know. But one day I will, and at that point, I'm gonna be so settled, and I've been doing it right now for like a few months now. So imagine when I'm gonna tell them, it'll everything will just be set in stone, and there won't be anything that anyone can really say. And the frustrating thing about like wanting to work and not finding a job is I had to explain to God, like, you know, this is how you made the world. You made the world where we needed money. Like, I know you are our provider, you're my provider, but at the same time, like, you made it where we need money for everything. So to not give me, you know, a job, especially when I am an able body and I want to work, that was the most frustrating thing there is. It's just like, why? Why? I think the purpose of this video, the purpose of my like testimony is that we just have to be honest with ourselves and honest with God as well on what it is that we really want, like what it is that you want for your life, what it is that, how you see your life. um, you know, if you want to work your 9 to 5, you want your entrepreneurship, you want both, um, you want to be a stay-at-home mom, and just being honest with yourself, with him, and asking him to make a way, because he absolutely will. And it may not be the way that we see fit or we want it to be, or a way that we thought about, right? Because that's not our job. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So never in a million years would I think he would ever give me the desire of my heart in this way. I thought I had to pick and choose, and I absolutely don't. And every day I am so grateful and so thankful. He still keeps me as a present mom. Like, my kids don't know no difference. They see me, you know, sometimes I can get home in time to like drop them off at school, but other times I'm right there. I'm able to pick them up if they get sick, take them to the doctor's appointment. So he still allowed me to be a present mom. He's still allowing me to work. He's still allowing me to build my business, to be a present wife, and he's allowing me to do it all where, you know, people aren't seeing, you know, some of this. They're not seeing this at all. And they will eventually, but right now he's helping me just move in silence.